development theory, Lewis Griffith. Lewis Griffith, evolutionary adolescent brain development theory.
How many of you have children of your own? A few of you, oh, pretty much most of you. And by show of hands, how many of you ever were children? All right, good. Pretty much everyone. So my speech topic today ought to be relevant to everyone today. I'm speaking about children. And aren't children just great? Especially small children. They're so cute, so adorable, so full of energy. They're a constant source of entertainment for parents, aren't they? Having children is almost as good as owning a pet. But then they grow older. They turn into teenagers. Yes, it's true. Fellow Toastmasters, guests, today I would like to share my theory on adolescent development from an evolutionary perspective. Let's start with the science. Researchers have shown what any parent of teenagers would tell you is obvious. The teenage brain is not yet fully developed. Duh! Now we take this half-baked brain, we're going to marinate it in a stew of pungent hormones, stir in a healthy dose of peer pressure, sprinkled with some social media. You've got a recipe for trouble. But I'd like to think of it as a transformative process. Say like the metamorphosis of a caterpillar into a butterfly, right? But as is the case with metamorphoses, it's not always going to be pretty. For example, turning an avocado into guacamole is going to get messy. Or converting coal into diamonds requires immense pressure and unlimited patience, just like parenting teenagers. My wife, Michelle, and I have 2 children. Our oldest, Thomas, is 15 3/4, so we have a few years of experience parenting a teenager. So this is some primary research to base my theory on. We've noticed some changes in Thomas since he became a teenager. The biggest being the development of a voracious appetite. I've heard it said that you could spend $250,000 raising one child. Based on our experience, that's all spent on food. There's a silver lining to his appetite, though. If it weren't for the appetite, I don't know if we'd ever see him. He'd be disappeared, holed up downstairs in the TV room, lured by that siren's call that is video games, never to see the light of day again. But because he's always hungry, he resurfaces promptly 3 times a day for meal times, and he'll come up several times between meals to replenish the snack supply. We also have a daughter. Our daughter, Leah, has now officially joined the ranks of teenagers, having turned 13 the end of August. But based on her behavior, I might have thought she's been acting under the delusion she's been a teenager for several years prior. We've noticed changes with Leah as well. Not so much to do with her appetite as to do with her attitude. I have to make a side note here. One of the superpowers that's been passed on through the Griffith family line is highly expressive eyebrows. If eyebrow gymnastics were an Olympic sport, I'd be training for 2020. And our daughter has inherited this gift as well. But sometimes she chooses to use this power for evil rather than for good. She has a default setting that she wears when approached by adults or anyone she doesn't know. It's basically a cross between a scowl and a pout. This should be interpreted much the same way you read the colorful warning displays used by poisonous reptiles or fish, basically saying approach at your own risk. Should you choose not to heed this warning, you will certainly be met with a look and probably several eye rolls. My wife and I understand that in the greater spectrum of teenage trials and tribulations, what we've experienced is probably on the milder end. We hope that it stays that way. But we have a few years yet to go. We're in it for the long haul. I know we'll do it. We have a mantra that we've relied on in previous challenging periods of parenting. This mantra is, it's only a phase, and this too will pass. Changing dirty diapers, a phase. Waking up in the middle of the night, a phase. Refusing to eat anything green other than Play-Doh, a phase. All of these phases happily in the past. But this teenager phase seems like it's gonna last a bit longer maybe. I mean, just the simple math, 13, 14, 15, 16, 17, 18, 19, 7 years, maybe 9 years in the case of a daughter. That's more like an era than a phase. I've heard that every 7 years your hair type changes. My hair will be completely gray or completely gone at the end of this phase. But let's get back to the original premise of this speech. What is the evolutionary purpose of teenagers? Small children, their adorableness, their cuteness, it stimulates that critical emotional bond between parent and child that helps the survival of the species. How do teenagers aid in the survival of the species? If anything, it's going to be counterproductive. This is my theory. Teenagers are in that last stage before they set out on their own. Yes, our little chicks getting ready to leave the nest. From what I've observed, the chicks aren't always so willing to go. They might need a little encouragement. The teenager phase is just the tonic for this ill. After parenting teenagers for 7 years, parents ought to have all the incentive and motivation to shove those chicks right out of the nest, thereby increasing the chances of survival for both